Great. I think we all are here now. All set. My voice is clear.
Yes,
Yep.
Great.
we can hear you.
Thank you. Let's start the day, guys. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from all parts of the world who have joined and registered for this great webinar happening today. Hope you and your family are doing safe in the COVID times. Our best wishes are with all of you. Today, we are having a lovely and unique event around a great theme which covers the role of technology in digital banking. So if you guys want to know how technology is evolving in new era and disrupting the digital banking, then you are in the right place. We'll go all over it throughout the panel discussion and give lots of insights to you. Now to begin with, let me introduce myself and the company to you. So my name is Nitin Naveen and I will be your host for the day. I'm working as Vice President Innovation and Strategy at AI CodeSpot. Further, I have been joined by my colleague Arvind and Naveen, who is in the back end, who will also assist me in keeping the event lively and resolving technical glitches if it comes in between. So thanks a lot to them for putting in hard work and making this one a huge success. We'll try to provide a seamless experience to all of you so that you can gain maximum output out of the same. Let me provide a brief background to all of you about AI CodeSpot. We started last year, backed up by our partner InfoVision, who is our knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, who is our technology partner. Our mission and vision is to serve as a hub for information regarding Industry 4.0 technologies, which includes all the emerging areas like AI, ML, deep learning, digital twin, AR, VR, robotics, blockchain, AR, 5G, drone, analytics, edge AI, edge computing, cloud, and so on. The focus is to provide all of you a deep dive in all the sectors where technology is there. And every month we have a separate theme. Also, we are gaining momentum month on month. Our aim is to be number one AI driven community all over the world so that like minded people like you can be part of the same in supporting, growing, and making it a success. We'll enrich the content, what we have, through the videos, podcasts, blogs, digital content, newsletters, to shed light on the ever evolving industry. The focus is to do industry backed webinars and the hybrid events. The knowledge repository will be made from reliable data through the industry leaders, subject matter experts, thought leaders, and our partners InfoVision and Digit7. Today's webinar is part of our knowledge series of events which we have planned for this year. It's power packed with a panel discussion themed around the role of technology in digital banking. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well, with focus on different areas like banking, financial, insurance, telecom, retail, healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing, utility, energy, and so on. So request all of you to go through our website, which is aicorespot.io, for further updates. Also, please like our social media handles, which will keep you all updated on everything what we propose to offer in the coming months to follow. So before starting with the day, I would like to highlight few things so that it can set up the tone for the amazing learning and networking day. A special mention about our knowledge and innovation partner, InfoVision, which is an end-to-end IT and business service provider specializing in providing technology transformation and innovation projects for over 25 years across multiple industries. They have more than 3,000 technology professionals working across 12 global locations, including US, Latin America, Middle East, and India. They serve over 65 customers across banking, financial industry, telecom, media, retail, consumer goods, healthcare, and manufacturing industries. Their core services offering includes digital engineering services, which is cloud, big data analytics, DevOps, application services, legacy modernization, digital quality assurance, mobile app, API microservices, social media research, analysis, and cybersecurity. They also have a unique state-of-the-art research and innovation lab, which is named as Digit7, which is in Richardson, Texas, with 4 great products, which includes dgrab, DigitShells, TagSquare, and FlyRobo. The beauty about all the 4 products is that they are customizable, cost-effective, and can be used in every industry where technology is needed. With their strong technology capabilities and delivery expertise, we are sure that they can help anyone in their transformation journey, provide technology needs to build future-proof business model and excellence into one's end customer experience. So to get in touch with them, kindly log on to the website, which is infovision.com, and leave your details through the contact us section. Now, moving on and coming to our community partners for today, we have some great partners, which is New Vision Federal Credit Union, Arvest Bank, and Geons Bank Corporation, who came together to make this webinar a success. A special mention to attendees of the event who registered and came today to achieve their objectives through this forum. At the end of the day, if you gain few things out of this or get to network with each other, then our core objective as a platform will be achieved. Further, if anyone wants to ask questions, they can type it in the Q&A section, which is there at the right corner of the menu option. You can type in as and when the panel member speaks, and we'll try to get it answered as per the time permitted during the last 10 to 15 minutes of the panel discussion. There's also a hand button at the bottom of the screen through which you can even raise the hand and come to the stage to ask questions to the speakers as well. Now, let's begin the game. Let me hand over the stage to Natarajan, who is the Chief Business Officer, BFI segment from Infovision, who is the moderator for this panel discussion. He's joined by three great leaders from the industry: Baron, who is Senior Vice President, New Vision Federal Credit Union; Brian, who's the Head of Products at Arvest Bank; and Catherine, who's Senior Vice President at Zions Bank Corporation. So over to you, Natarajan, to begin this exciting panel discussion.
Thanks, Nathan, and thanks everyone for taking time joining this event. And on behalf of Baron, Brian, Catherine, welcome you all to this session that we have today on how technology is transforming banking industry, right? As you all know, technology has been transforming all industries across the board, right? And it's creating a significant impact to our lives on a daily basis. And in fact, outside of human connection, I think all you need is a laptop or tablet, smartphone or a smartwatch. That's all you need to carry out all of your daily activities these days, right? So such is the importance of technology that we have come to rely on. But usually BFS industry, is a laggard, right? So they lag behind most of the other industries, because of a lot of regulatory pressures and things like that, right? So they, and even more so, US region specifically compared to say your Asia Pacific or EMEA, US banks are still, trailing behind in the industry compared to other regions. But after the onset of COVID in 2020, I guess, all industries and including banks, they didn't have a choice, right? So, it was a necessity to probably shove what would have taken 5 years to do transformation into just that 1 year, right? To be able to sustain and then be in business, right? So everything had to be self-service. Whatever was physical had to be changed to virtual. You have to do everything through your laptop or mobile device. We had to leverage cloud for scalability, right, for the technology architecture. Then leverage big data to store all of the data, because the volume spiked. Everybody was doing everything in e-commerce mode, so you have a wealth of information that you want to tap into. Then they were trying to leverage AI ML, right, to sift through the data to identify opportunities that they can leverage to increase the top line revenue, and also identify bottlenecks or areas of improvement opportunities to reduce their bottom line, right? So by and large, I think starting 2020, there have been a lot of focus on technology transformation in the BFS industry, right? So this session is very apt, where we have leaders from big banks, credit unions, to share their experiences on what they are seeing in the market with the adoption of the latest digital emerging technologies, right? So, I have a couple of questions spanning across technology, strategy, compliance area, customer, experience. So we want to talk about some of the leading technologies and how different groups like big banks, regional banks, community credit unions, they are, adopting and embracing technology in their own shop, right? So, maybe first question, probably I'll ask Baron, right? Like we talked about during COVID, A lot of transformation, has taken place, right? Including RPA for automating, the manual work, at least to compensate for some of the shortfall in the, labor. And then, implementation of workflows, automated rules engine. So a lot of other technology transformation, right? Cloud migration, data lake, data mart, all of that. So, from your experience, do you think that the banks or the financial institutions have gained anything during, that transformation period, whatever investment they have put in? And do you also see they're continuing to make that investment going forward?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Really excited to be part of this. So that question, it's really interesting. So I think that, to the point that you made, right, the advent of COVID, right, the unfortunate led to the fortunate from our industry in terms of it super accelerated how almost all financial institutions embrace digital and digital transformation and try to make better use of those capabilities, both to deliver value to customers and also to sort of help run their organizations. And I think that now that we're through this sort of period of COVID, however, entering into a period of incredible uncertainty, right? Whether it's about recession, increased inflation, will that lead to more financial instability? What you're going to see, I think, is a continued focus and investment in transformation. And whereas, let's say, through COVID, it was very much around, I think, and I can talk about this from, let's say, New Vision's perspective, it was very much around how do we better enable these customer experiences? Because now that folks are suddenly pushed to having less access, let's say, to a physical branch, and they need to be online, how do we enable that and how do we deliver that service to them in a digital framework? I think what you're seeing now, though, is that shift to, and I can speak to this really from New Vision, we were very focused on let's try and build some great user experiences for our customers, for our members. Now what we're doing is we're going through that experience. That experience is very much on the front end. And we still had a lot of manual processes and operations on the back end. And so now where we're shifting our focus is to say, how do we use automation and RPA and data and technology in general to automate our back end? And we're doing that for two reasons. One is still from a member perspective, how do we make their lives easier, right? How do we make it seamless and how do we make it efficient and easy for them? Also, though, we're trying to sort of optimize our cost structure, right? We're entering into a period of uncertainty. We've got to look after our revenue. We've got to look after our balance sheet. We've got to make sure we're still delivering, the right value proposition to our members. So it's very much around now how do we automate as much as we can on the back end of things, right? So middle and back offices, so we can actually become more efficient and more effective and more productive. And I think there's two things there for that. One is it helps us ride out the storm, right? Whatever that storm is going to be. And then I think equally importantly, as we come out of that storm, right, and into a new era, which is going to present a whole new set of opportunities, how can we be well set up to take advantage of those? And I think that, most financial institutions are probably looking, I'm guessing, right, and just from the conversations I've been having, are sort of seeing it through that type of window and lens.
Thanks, Baron. And in Brian and Catherine, your experience coming out of, all the effort for transformation from COVID from 2020, are you, guys seeing that, yes, there is benefit to whatever was done? And are you still seeing investments going into the future?
Yes, I see that we're continuing to invest in this technology. And as Baron said, a lot of it has to do with automating those processes in the back end. And from my perspective, making sure that we're keeping the bank safe, we're keeping our customers safe. But we're also facing labor shortages. And so it's imperative that we find ways to automate a lot of those manual processes.
Okay.
Yep. Likewise at RVest, we're continuing that investment and similarly a lot of focus on automation. But I think as much for, if not, for the customer experience as we are for anything else, because our customers also want their products quickly. It just happens to help us reduce our costs and deal with labor shortages and really make sure that our associates at the bank are able to focus on serving the customer in ways that are meaningful to the customer and not in doing things that the customer doesn't get a lot of value out of them doing versus a machine. So
Yeah.
that's how we're looking at it.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So now, there are a lot of emerging technologies, right? We talked about some of them in the beginning. And everything has its own, good and bad, right? And sometimes it's what is needed versus, what the clients or end consumers want, right? So, how do you, choose what technology will give a better ROI or better, consumer experience, right? So, what due diligence is needed for a successful technology adoption? So, from each of your individual organization standpoint, how do you choose what is the right technology that you want to adopt? Otherwise, there are drones, there are AR, VR, RPA, automated workflow, automated rules engine, low code, no code platform. So, you talk about all of the technology buzzwords, right? But not everything can, end of the day, make sense to your organization and to your consumer segment. So, how do you choose what is right for your particular institution? Baron, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, on the one hand, with everything that's happening in our world of digital and technology, you can sometimes feel like a kid in a candy store, right? I want all of it, right? And I want all of it right now. However, right, we can't, right? And I think that every institution is faced with that challenge. New Vision, in the great scheme of things, right, we're a smaller organization and we have limited budgets. So we've had to be very smart about where we focus our attention and where we focus our energy. And we start really with one place. And that one place that we start is not actually about technology, it's about the user, right? It's about the customer. We start with, how, and I think, both Brian and Catherine touched upon this in their earlier answers. How can we make sure, right, that what we're doing is creating value for the member, right? So we call our customers members. How can we create value for the member? How do we make their lives a little bit easier? How can we get them to do something a little bit faster? How do we make sure that we're being safer and more secure? And so when we use those lenses, right, first, we then start to say, okay, where are our gaps in that, right? So there are areas we feel we're doing okay. There are areas where we know we need to do a lot better, right? I wouldn't say there's any one area where we're amazing. I think there are areas where we're getting there, and there's areas where we need to improve. And what we try and do is sort of saying, okay, if we're hitting the mark in these specific areas, but there are some gaps in, and I'm just using this as an example, right? Let's say there's a gap in how we're onboarding a new member for account opening, right? That's where we're going to put our energy, right? That's where we're going to say, you know what? We see an opportunity to create a better experience for our members or for our prospects to become members, to make it easier for them. And so that's where we'll put our time and effort. Now, as we go through that, of course, we have to still do ROI analysis. We do, return on experience, right? We want to make sure that any investment isn't just about pure what's the financial return, right? Because I think there you'll end up losing what's the right user experience, what's the right value and benefit for the member. So we're always trying to sort of balance those two things. But that's really how we've tried to approach it, and that's how we've sort of trying to move, our little sort of needle forward every sort of point of the journey.
Okay. And Brian, Catherine, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that we obviously are looking at our competitors as well. We want to make sure that we're offering, things that are on par and looking at the new and emerging technologies. And to Baron's point, making sure that it's something that will be useful to our customers, that they're going to want to have to make their lives easier. We then also struggle with balancing. Sometimes we do a really good job of making things easier for our customers, but then it still results in a lot of back end manual processes. And so we have to take that into account. And then again, I'm in the fraud space. And so I'm looking at bringing forward technologies that might not make the customer journey any different. They might not know that some of the stuff is implemented, but it's for their protection, for their benefit, and also for to keep the bank safe as well.
Okay. Yeah, we used to call it HCD, human-centric design, right? So I think before some of the clients that we consult into, before they embrace any new thing, right, be it an operational process or a technology advancement, we want to sit and design around their consumer as to how the consumer will look at this, right? Is it going to create value for them, or is it going to create more overhead or redundancy, right? So that leads me to my next question, because somebody once told me that we didn't come out of stone age because we ran out of stones, right? We invented technology and we made life better for ourselves. So now with all of the new and emerging technologies, how do banks or FIs um, navigate the line towards the technology advancement versus maintaining them operationally, right? To your point, Catherine, right? So you are on the back end, so whatever happens in the front end, you should be able to sustain that operationally, right, and make it viable. So how do you think the industry is adapting to that change?
So I often see the product groups try to bring things forward. They're very customer focused, as they should be, but sometimes we forget to look at the back end and say, what is it going to take? What is it going to cost to, in order to properly implement this, maintain it, be able to keep it up to date and run the bank? And then, we have fraud models, and we've got analysts working things. And so we need to do a better job up front of when we're bringing forth a new technology to say, okay, what is going to be the impact to the back office staff? Or if this technology is replacing a disparate system, can we shift resources to now focus on this? So we shouldn't be doing that after the fact, but doing a better job of doing it ahead of time to really understand the operational impact.
Okay, okay. And Brian, from your experience, right? You've done a lot of digital transformation projects as well. So even in my experience, I've always told my customers that being digital or going digital doesn't mean that you digitize everything or you automate everything, right? Because if the process itself is inefficient to begin with, right, then that will sometimes magnify after transformation. So it's like crap in, crap out, but on a much faster scale, right?
Yep.
So how, from your experience, right, in your own organization, how do you, go about even, getting into digital transformation? What are the things that you look for, right?
Yeah, so I think in a lot of ways digital transformation is an inconvenient term because it really should be business transformation that's powered by digital, right? So it kind of gets shortened to digital transformation, but the way we approach it is understand what do we need to transform for our customers to be successful and for our business to be successful, and then after that's done, much to what Barron spoke to, after that's done and you've prioritized those problems, then you go in search of what technology helps me solve those. And so that's how we've approached digital transformation from the Arvis perspective is, and holistically to Catherine's point, if you just focus on the very tip of that customer experience, then you may miss the customer experience impacts that you have of, oh, we didn't handle fraud or we didn't handle all the operational side. And so the app looks really amazing, but it takes 3 weeks for you to get done what you need to. And so you have to think holistically about that full experience and also what the impact to the business will be as well.
And Brian, from Harvest standpoint, I think you had done a lot of M&A, right, over the course of 10-15 years,
Yep.
a collection of banks across the West Midwest region. So how do you manage the expectations? I know you would have integrated some of the technology together under one umbrella, but with different people having different view or catering to different market segments, right? West, Southwest region. So how do you manage those expectations when it comes to transformation?
I think we have partnered very closely with all of the the key stakeholders across the banks that we have brought into the fold over the years. And so I think that has helped a lot of bringing those stakeholders to the table early and often, and then still explaining we can't do all of this at once. So how are we thinking through our prioritizations? So a lot of showing our work of this is how we got to the answer of the order in which we're taking things, and being able to show that customer value and business value as a means for that prioritization is how we really manage that.
Okay. And Catherine, what is your view from Zion's Bank? Because you also have a collection of banks across states over a period of time, right? So how easy is it to drive a transformation project in your institution?
It's getting easier over time, but we really focus on making sure that our affiliates in each of the markets maintain that presence for their customers, and so we don't want to disrupt anything anytime we change. And over time, we've done a better job of doing more standardization and centralization on the back side. And so customer facing, we want those brands to be unique, and they have a lot of clout in the community. But on the backside, we were doing things 6 to 8 different ways, and that was just not efficient. So we've been making a lot of strides in getting those processes to be standardized. And that helps when you make those changes then, because you're changing it one way and not 8 ways.
Okay. Understood. So we talked about transformation and technology, but from end consumer standpoint, right? So what is the feedback that you're getting as to whether the promises the technology is making is received by the consumers? Baron, you're part of your credit union, which is not for profit, right? So how is the reaction from your members for all of the digital initiatives that your credit union is making?
Yeah, so I mean, okay, we're not for profit, but we're still in the business of engaging a member, a customer, right? And I think that there's a saying. It's not my saying. I wish it was, because I think it's so good. But the last best experience you had is the experience you expect from everything. And I think increasingly in financial services, that's truer than ever. So we're under, just because we're a credit union and we're, let's say, smaller in the great scheme of things, right? And just because we're not for profit doesn't mean that when one of our members interacts with us, they want exactly the same type of experience they'd get from a Chase or from an Amazon, right? So what we're trying to do is understand in our own way, how can we find ways to deliver on that? And the way we do that is we try to obsess over the customer and obsess over the member experience. And we do that by speaking to them, right? So either directly or indirectly, we speak to them a lot. So whether it's, we do an awful lot of, we have panels, we have advisory boards, we do an awful lot of, market research where we actually, sit down with members and speak to them. We do, small groups, large surveys. We also rigorously analyze all of our contact center data. So all of the call data that comes in, right, and all of the sort of conversations that happen. We use data. We basically use data and AI to actually go through that and try and highlight trends and patterns, right? And at the same time, we're also looking at what our competition are doing, right? And we're looking at where that's all going. And through those different lenses, what we try to do is say, okay, here's where our members are, here's what they want, here's where they're seeing concerns or issues, or here's something they would love. And then we try and make sure that we say, okay, are we in a position to deliver something like that? Does it fit into our strategy? Does it fit into our roadmap? Is it where our business is going? And I want to just go back quickly, because this, I think, ties back to something that Brian said, right? It's not digital transformation, it's business transformation using digital and technology to make it happen. So we're constantly trying to push ourselves to say, in that business transformation, how are we delivering the right value to the user? And we're trying to do it that way. Now, it takes us time, right? We don't have the scale or the dollars, let's say, that larger organizations have. However, there's a lot of fantastic partners out there. right? And so where we do this is how once we've identified those needs, it's and the opportunities, it's now how do we build our partner network to find smart, clever ways to deliver, comparable capabilities.
Got it. Got it. So I know we used to say, there is an app for this, there is an API for that. Now we tend to say there is AI in everything, right? And you touched on the 360-degree view, collect data from all possible channels, the, contact center, the text exchanges or the chat channel or even, social media, right? Because these days a lot of people, first take it out on the social media, be it in Twitter or, any of the social media apps. So now this, immense wealth of data, right? So that banks and FIs can tap into to see what their end consumers are saying, right? So there's AI, ML technology, and then overlay AI on top of that, right? So how do you think financial institutions are taking advantage of these capabilities to incorporate AI? That's going to benefit them to provide better services and products to their consumers. Baron, you want to go first? Your take on
Yeah,
that?
so I mean, I think that data and AI from our perspective, it's sort of it's the water. It's the water that you need for your organization to keep it sustained, right? And so for us, the way we're looking at this, and I'm really going to sort of you could spend a whole hour just talking about this, right? So I'm going to try and really simplify it and generalize it. We're looking at 4 areas for us, right? Some of those things, actually, all of them were at the beginning of the beginning, right? We've got a long journey to go. But our 4 areas are number one, right? Better accessibility to products and services for our members. So, for example, we're working with some partners that will take a different approach to understanding, let's say, a member, so that we're not limited by just looking at someone's credit score when it comes to, let's say, giving them a car loan, right? It's basically we're expanding the pool and opening up a whole new set of opportunities for people. Secondly, fraud prevention. I mean, it is so woven into whatever you end up doing, however good you get at it, and you've got to sort of I don't know, grudgingly admire these people. They come up with a way around it, right? And it's like, how did they do this? So we're using, we're looking at AI. We use, it's a massive part of how we use fraud for fraud prevention right now, and it's going to continue to, I think, take a bigger and bigger share of how we look at that side of the world. The third area is better member service and support. So, we're really just beginning our sort of contact center transformation in the use of, how we want to use chatbots and voice services. And our whole idea is to sort of, really use that to sort of drive a whole new way of interacting with members and make, create more seamless experiences. And then the final area is personalization, right? So again, how can we make sure that we are proactively delivering the right product at the right time to the right person, to super simplify it? And those are the areas we're putting our emphasis on, and that's where data and AI are. You can't really do it effectively without those capabilities.
Okay. Thanks, Baron. So, yeah, anything to add, Brian or Kat, from your experience?
Well, I was really happy to hear that Baron mentioned the fraud side, because that's where my head is always at. And so with our product teams, obviously they're focusing on, how do we use data and AI to better understand our customers and their needs. However, I'm always looking at, how do I make sure you are who you say you are? How do I make sure we're not dealing with a synthetic ID or identity theft? So that authentication piece using data and AI is essential for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and very similar from our side. So we entered into a 5-year partnership with Google. A bit to Baron's point on, we can't do it all ourselves, but we're focusing on very similar areas. And I think if you turn it around to the customer experience part, particularly in the fraud area, fraud is usually an annoyance to customers until it happens, and then they're very upset about it. So how do you reduce the annoyance but don't increase the likelihood of occurring? And I think AI is has the promise to help in that area.
Yeah, to build off that, I think that's an important piece of this is that you want to reduce the friction for our actual customers, but then you want to increase the friction for the fraudsters. So we want our real customers to have a very seamless experience and enjoyable experience, and really do a lot of that fraud prevention and authentication in the background without having to, disrupt the customer.
Okay. So, recently, at least in the peer-to-peer payment space, right? So this increased fraud cases, right? Especially say with, Zelle or Venmo payments, right? So that is where I think most of the fraud is happening. So do you think, AI, ML will be able to, at least bring down, you can't eliminate, no matter what technology, you come up with. I think, the scammers or fraudsters, they also become more creative and they circumvent it, right? Catherine, from your experience being in this space, right? Banking industry, as you know, is heavily regulated, compliance requirement, fraud, AML, OFAC checks, and whatever else that you can pile on. While technology is fun to work with, but it has to be within the framework of compliance, right? Otherwise, you run into reputational risk, being in the front page of Wall Street Journal, or actually consent orders or heavy penalties, right? So how do you think FIs are trying to adopt all the new technology within the framework of compliance and regulation?
I think it's a fine line. We obviously want to be involved in technology and we want to move things forward. That's where the industry is going, and so we have to keep up with it. But we have to make sure that we're keeping things safe. And unfortunately, we're heavily regulated, where other players in this space aren't as regulated, and so that makes things difficult. We are using machine learning and artificial intelligence to build better fraud models, tweaking those rules, looking at those things. And we have a lot of governance and oversight to make sure those models are working correctly, that any changes to the models or the rules are being governed. To your point earlier, when you were asking about Zelle and payments fraud, if AI can protect against that, the hard thing is that a lot of these customers are falling victims to scams. So it is our legitimate customer logging in, and they are the ones initiating a payment via Zelle or Venmo. And so that's much harder for us to capture, because you're looking at IP addresses and device printing, and it really is our customer that's initiating that payment. And that's where new technology such as behavioral biometrics comes into play, where you can say, is this normal behavior for our customer? Are they pausing because they're waiting for instructions? Are they hesitating? So I think that that's going to be very important going forward.
Okay. So one follow-up question to that, right? So I know we talked about payments, but some of the things that I've read is especially AI with all the built-in models, right? When it comes to say approving loans or credit, right? How do you eliminate the bias, right? Because it just goes by the number, but sometimes if you go by that, you also get into trouble, right? Minority community or different demographics, right? So how do you think in the future AI or better models will emerge to avoid that? Otherwise you still need manual intervention to say, while AI or ML can do maybe 50-60% of heavy lifting, you may still need a person to review the data to make sure that it's not prejudiced with any community or specific group. So how do you think in the future you can't eliminate that problem, but probably minimize that problem?
Exactly. I don't think you'll ever get away from those manual processes when it comes to something like a loan approval. I think that you can target the low-hanging fruit to where you can automatically approve things that are good, and you can automatically decline things that are obviously not. But it's that gray area in between that I think we're still going to have that manual intervention. And, depending on risk score and other factors, we'll be able to maybe get it a little bit narrower, but I don't think you'll eliminate it altogether.
Okay. So,
And
you
can I
go ahead,
just to
please go
build
ahead.
upon, I actually think to build upon what Catherine just said, I mean, very much in agreement with her. I also think that, you know, AI models are going to improve over time. And whether you're doing it yourself, right, if you have that capability, or you're working with partners, it's about the transparency of their model, right? If they're very open and share their model, and you're very clear about what your objectives are and what you want, and you're basically auditing yourself constantly. I also, while I agree that you're never going to get away from the manual side of things, I do think that actually what you may end up doing is seeing that flip where an AI model, because it can be so objective, takes away bias and actually makes it fairer, right? It's just about, can we get the model right? And I think that's going to take a little bit of time to get there. I believe, though, that will help. I mean, some of the things we're looking at will actually hopefully open up availability to members in a way that we haven't been able to do before. So we believe that eventually, we should be able to create a less biased environment and a less biased sort of set of opportunities for our customers, for our members.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree, Baron. And there's been some preliminary research that points towards algorithms have introduced less bias in some instances than manual processes. So I'm hopeful that you can get there, and also the transparency I think is an important aspect of it. But yeah, I'm hopeful that they're not in conflict, right? Of course, you can always bake bias into an algorithm, but hopefully then it's easier to see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess the important thing is, even if you have AI ML, we have seen clients have a separate team called ML ops, right? So they continuously look at the data, look at the model output, run parallels to see how they can tweak the model to avoid some of these nuances, right? So that is important. Otherwise, the model will continue to do what it is doing, thinking that that is okay, right? So I don't think the manual component will ever go away. So now talking about manual component again, switching back to RPA, right? So that was supposed to reduce or improve the set of manual activities that we do in FIs. So still one of the probably longest process is getting a mortgage, right? You can get an auto loan or a credit card fairly quickly, but if you have to get a mortgage, it's still it used to be 60 days. Now I think with some of the processes and technology, it has come down to maybe 40 days or 30 days depending on the lender. So from all the technology impact that we have spoken about, right, where do you think the lending industry, specifically the residential mortgages, will get into in the future, where like a car loan, can I get it in a day, or say can I get it in 5 days, or do you guys still see that process, you cannot bring it to say less than 20 days? So what are your views on technology impacting the life cycle of say a mortgage loan? Baron, you want to take that?
So yeah, so that's I'm pondering this. So a mortgage, let's say, is an incredibly high consideration transaction that has a lot of moving parts and a very high emotional component to it, right? And it's wrapped in a lot of regulatory constraints, rightly so. So I don't think, right, you'll ever get to a place where, for example, like a car loan, you'll get to, I can get a mortgage in a day. I think there's, through automation, through rethinking business operations and business services, eventually probably rethinking regulations to take advantage of what some of these capabilities can provide, right? I think is going to happen. And I think you could significantly speed it up, right? But I don't think we'll get to the point of you'll turn up in a day, you'll turn up, apply for a mortgage, and a couple of days later, you'll have your mortgage. I still think it's probably going to be, even with all the automation, because of the human component and the back and forth that's required. And you're reliant on someone uploading a lot of information and providing you information, and the back and forth. And as much as we love our customers and our members, they're not always that reliable, and they take a lot of prompting. It's not that it's not that it's going to be instant, right? I think that we can significantly reduce it. I don't think it's ever going to be, nor should it be, like getting a car loan, right? There's a level in there that you need a little bit more security, right? If you think about the level of fraud we're doing on as transactions get faster and faster, then you want to make sure there's that little bit of level of constraint. And for such big financial decisions, I actually think it's okay for a little bit of time to be involved. Now, can it be speeded up significantly, and can we make it easier for the customer? Absolutely, right? I don't think we'll ever get it to the place of, not in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think we'll ever get it to the place where it's like getting a car loan, right, or like getting a credit card.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when the blockchain technology came out, one of the use case that people were talking about is the longest pole in the tent for a mortgage life cycle is the title review, right? Because they want to check and make sure that it's clean, free of liens. So they are dependent on the title companies to do all of that research and then come back, right? And same thing with the appraisal, because there's a manual component to it. But at least with COVID, we have seen the physical inspection or appraisal has changed into more of a desk review, right, for comparable properties. And for title, especially, one of the biggest use case that everybody was expecting is blockchain, because it's immutable. Nobody can change it. Say if the property has been there for 30 years, right, and 5 people owned it before, you don't want to change that chain of history, right? So that preserves the title. So blockchain was supposed to be a biggest use case for any of the physical asset, like your car title or your boat or motorcycle or home. And if industry adapts blockchain technology for mortgage title, then the lenders don't have to spend a lot of time reviewing the same property again and again, right? Because you would have gotten a mortgage, then you will do a refi after 1 year, then maybe rates go down again, you do it. So they don't have to go through the same process. They look at the last blockchain to say, yep, everything is clear, nobody would have touched it. So that was one thing that was supposed to reduce some of the timeline in the industry. And the second part to that is also now trying to sell homes as a NFT, right? I think they were trying to do that in Florida, trying to sell NFT, but the underlying asset is a home, right? So that, I think, a lot of people are trying innovative methods to see how they can reduce the entire 30-40 days timeline to even at least 10 days, because that's the biggest investment that anybody in the US technically makes in their lifetime, right? Probably once or twice. So do you think the blockchain or NFT can have any impact on the mortgage product or any asset? You want to buy a boat, or you want to buy any special investment vehicle. Do you think blockchain or NFT can improve that?
Yes, I mean, I think that eventually the capabilities that something like blockchain promises can deliver some really transformational changes in how parties engage with each other. I do believe that. I think that and I'm no expert in this space at all. I'm striving to be an amateur in it. I think that there's still a long way to go, though, in that space, because of what I think: A, acceptance; B, understanding; C, the the challenge we have right now with blockchain is not blockchain; it's the world of crypto and the sort of the speculative nature of it, and those two things are too wrapped up to each other. And I think as that all settles, and I think that will happen eventually, and as people realize this is more of a enabling transaction sort of capability, that will change. So I think it will, but I think we're a few years away from that sort of being truly available to the general public in the way that we hope it will be, or think it can be.
Okay. And Catherine, since you are in the compliance fraud space, any initiatives from Zions Bank adapting blockchain or crypto for solving some of the fraud? Because it's supposed to be decentralized and nobody to interfere. So any projects that you're working on in that space?
We have teams that are having those discussions. I mean, nothing in the immediate future, but I'm going to be very curious to see how it'll end up, or if it'll end up being regulated, and what the impact of that is going to be. So
So yeah, I think everybody is watching, very, very closely, because there's, absolutely, no regulation, right? So, some people say it's considered as a security, the crypto, and some say it's not. And I read that yesterday or day before, the U.S. government is also, trying to come up with a, CBDC. So I guess there's a lot of speculation in that area before crypto can come into mainstream. Although, some companies like, Blackstone, BlackRock, these guys are trying to put some of the crypto as part of the investment portfolio for 401k, participants. But I think it will take a lot of time before it becomes mainstream. So now, coming, I know, Baron, you touched on this a little bit, right? So smaller banks and credit unions like yours, they're community oriented. They may not have large scale investments. How do you think, these smaller institutions can keep up now with the, you know, growth of all the neo banks or, fintech institutions, right? So how do you, stay in business competing with those, new age firms?
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple of things there. One is, the rise of the fintech industry or sector is, on the one hand, it's added this whole level of out of the box thinking competition, right? On the other hand, that which is on the front end of it. But on the other side of it, there's all of these new enabling providers, right? Enabling capability and technology providers. And so the way that we're looking at this is it's, for us, our ability to custom develop or in-house develop is limited, right? So we're reliant on partners. So really for us, it's about, as we, to Brian's earlier point, identify user and business needs, we then look across our partner network or what new partners are out there to say, how can we find someone that's already got this and built it and it works and integrate it, and that works, that has a very open framework and platform that we can use and integrate into how we're trying to run our business. So on the one hand, that's one thing, right? That's one area, right? Building this powerful, for ourselves, this powerful sort of partner network of technology enablers and providers. The second thing, where I think that whether it's, like a credit union or any, let's say, legacy financial institution, what we have that a fintech doesn't have is customers, right? They put an inordinate amount of money into buying their customers, right? Whether it's some cool feature or it's how they or offer or the way they do marketing, right? They're having to buy their customers, right? We already have a customer base. We already have an understanding of who our users are, what they want, how they feel, why they want what they want. And so I think that the thing is, I don't always think that legacy, whether it's credit unions or banks, always, they sometimes forget that they already have this, right? And it's how you tap into that and use that and understand who they are and how you as a business deliver value to them and create value is where your advantage is. And I think that, that is always going to be something that those that get it will be able to actually drive a stronger business presence than let's say the fintech space, which is not to say that there are some fintechs who are fantastic and brilliant at doing that, and that there's a big enough pie for everyone. But I think for us, in terms of how we try and compete, it's looking at it for those sort of two dimensions.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I think, yes, the legacy banks or the legacy institutions, they already have, set of customers, right? But where the fintechs or the neo banks are going after is all the Gen Zs or, millennials customer base. And I think some of these neo banks or fintechs, even if go to their website, they clearly say that they are not a bank, they're a, fintech institution, and they depend on the underlying sponsor bank, right? For example, Arvest could be the underlying bank for, 4 or 5 fintech banks on top of that, right? So all the fintechs are trying to do is almost like a slick, UI with, some innovative products, but they draw all the underlying, functions and the strength from the sponsor bank, right? Because they don't have large team to do, fraud or AML or KYC, right? Or deposit administration. And even in fact, I don't think they directly provide the FDIC insurance coverage. So that is also provided by the underlying sponsor banks. So Brian, do you think that that is a model that from both technology standpoint, having a cool UI, cool app that everything is online only or digital only as the front end, but drawing all the power or the engine from a legacy institution? Do you think that symbiotic relationship can at least continue and will help the new customers?
I think it will continue. I think when banks look at it, I think they need to be very thoughtful, and in our case, we're looking at it from our mission to help people find financial solutions for life. And so we need to then evaluate, is that helping our mission in that area? I think it's it, it certainly looks like it could go down a commodity route depending on how you do it, right? If you're just fully in the background and you have no differentiation, I think you can slip into that area. So I think even in a case where your technology is going to be delivered to the customer through an intermediate company, you still need to think, but why would that intermediate company choose our bank as a sponsor bank versus another? So I don't think it takes away the need to decide what segments you're serving, how are you going to serve them, et cetera. And we're looking at areas where we can differentiate in an ecosystem play outside of just providing component, atomic features in that area.
Okay. So now from a compliance standpoint, Catherine, if this is say like the ecosystem for maybe another 10, 15 years, right, with neobanks on the top and underlying sponsored banks. So do you think from a compliance standpoint, monitoring all of this for your own set of customers and then the customers from the fintech, do you think it'll increase the complexity and increase the workload for the existing teams? You'll have to build more control. So what are your thoughts to make sure that the same policy and framework is applied to your current core bank and the fintechs on top of that?
Yeah, it's you have to decide, are you going to dedicate fraud and compliance personnel to the neobank, or are you going to have everything run through the underlying bank, or a combination of the two? I think it's a good model to get those Gen Zers in the door, and as they grow or take over businesses and own businesses later, maybe the neobank isn't going to be enough for them and they're going to want a traditional bank to service them. But we definitely have to keep an eye on whatever's happening. If you're a sponsor bank, then we're ultimately going to be responsible for that fraud and compliance, KYC, all of that. And so I think it's important that we keep a close relationship and keep that very close, because we're going to need to understand the controls that they have in place and all the protections that they have in place. So it's an interesting time right now.
Yeah. So since we are talking about digital banks or online only banks, right? So what are your views on the actual physical brick and mortar branches? Do you guys see that that will continue to decline?
I think I think there's still going to be a bit of a decline, but I don't think you're ever going to see brick and mortar go away. There are things that I would prefer to do via chat or email, but there are times where you want that human interaction. And so I don't think you're ever going to get away from the brick and mortar completely. But I do think that we'll continue to see a decline in the number of branches.
So Baron, Brian, you guys are more focused on community or smaller banks. So what are your thoughts on how
So
customers react?
yeah, so to Catherine's point, right? I think that especially if you think in America, right, where the banking industry is so fragmented compared to the rest of the world, you're going to continue to see a decline in branches and consolidation. However, to Catherine's point, it's not going to go away. I think what you're going to see is, and look, this stuff goes in trends anyhow, and fashions, and what changes economically. However, I think what you'll see is an evolution, maybe even a revolution at some point in what a physical location is. And the example I can give is, you know, we're a relatively small network, but when we still have branches, and we're actually in some respects looking to expand our branch network a little bit. However, it's not a branch in the typical sense of the word, right? What we're trying to do is take the best of what digital transformation or business transformation or new capability can offer and pull that into the branch. So for example, for your day-to-day transactions, right, where you're going into a branch, what we're trying to get to is that is as automated as possible. And we're using IVR and video interaction and automated tellers and stuff like that. Where the branch is relevant is to Catherine's point, those conversations, right? The conversations that matter, right? The meaningful relationships. And we're trying to design and build sort of our future looking branches around that concept, right? Which is, it's a place to go to have a valuable conversation, to decide important decisions about financial decisions about your life. And we think that that's a good balance. And we think that for now, that's where we can see a winning opportunity for us.
I read something yesterday that used the term phygital, which is bringing the physical and the digital. I think it was a McKinsey study, but talking about the digital and the physical branch locations.
Yeah, and then we are also seeing that some of the banks, I think in APAC, are also experimenting actually having a physical robot, right? To meet customers and say if they want to go to the teller, take them to the teller, or if they want to get some documents notarized, take to the notary in the bank, or talk to a investment advisor or wealth management. So at least like almost like a concierge service, right? So provided by an actual physical robot. So in fact,
Yeah.
even at InfoVision, we have two of those models, not tailored for banking, but on the clinical side, right, for taking patients to the lab and things like that, right? So do you think there'll be a model where robots will roam around bank branches soon?
I don't know. I'm the person that when I get an automated phone call, I'm pressing the button and saying representative because I just want to talk to someone. So I don't know. That's well, it'll be interesting to see how, if it's something small, I think probably, but the more complicated the financial transaction, the more that there is a need to talk to a human.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
talking about security, right? So, because you mentioned financial transaction, like, you sometimes I'm also paranoid. I want to make sure that I talk to a person. Otherwise, automated machines, they ask for sometimes the same information, and you're giving away your, driver license number or social security number, or, the full 16-digit credit card number, depending on the use case, right? So, and you're also, increasingly seeing cyber attacks, right? Every day, irrespective of the industry, at least 3 or 4 big companies are in the news, right? Personal information getting into hackers. So specifically from, BFS, and that's one of the reason why banks are paranoid to, embracing new technology quickly, right? So what do you think from a technology standpoint the industry can do to avoid or minimize the, cybersecurity attacks?
Well, I mean, everything that we are doing, to me, the issue is more of our customers are the weakest link. You don't hear about banks getting hacked that often. I mean, it can happen, but we have a plethora of controls and firewalls and everything protecting our customer information. But our customers, if they click on a phishing link, if they have malware on their computer, if they give screen sharing capabilities to a fraudster over the phone, that's where we can't protect them. Their computer is compromised, and therefore, they come in and, do some type of online banking transaction. And so that's the key to me is customer education, making sure that they have the protection, the firewalls, malware, antivirus protections in place because they're the weakest link.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add to that,
Sure.
I mean, I think Catherine, she brings up a great point, right? So we're putting a lot of effort in any use of different technologies. Going forward, we're looking at biometrics, and I do think at some point, not yet, right? blockchain will probably offer some really interesting opportunities. However, I think the real benefit yet to be had is how do you take all of this capability that's being developed that sits, let's say, as a layer around a financial institution and find a way to layer around a person. And I don't know if that's an offering that a financial institution should offer to someone or someone else. But I think that, there's so much intelligence wrapped into these capabilities. Perhaps if there's a way to do that, we can actually, maybe a service is to better do that for our customers, for our members. But I think, to Catherine's point, until we can do that, humans are, we're fallible, right? So we're always going to be that weak link, unfortunately. But I think there's that strange opportunity there that needs to be sort of tapped into.
Okay. Brian, any feedback from you?
No, not a lot to add there. Just I think totally agree. It's how do you deal with the human side of it, and I
Yeah.
think the behavioral biometrics, I think those types of things will be key in that, where we can help other people realize, hey, this is not what you usually do, and provide ways for them to kind of recover from those mistakes that we're all going to make.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things that, at least I'm seeing in the industry, right? So based on my interaction with some of the customers, everybody talks about the zero trust solution, right? So at the outset, operate with the premise that you don't trust anybody, right? So make sure that, every connection request you authenticate only if it is, valid, then allow, right? So in fact, InfoVision, we have a patented zero trust solution that we built for the Department of Defense. So some of the, large companies are, talking to us to see how we can implement that to even, prevent the connection being established, because a lot of attacks happen actually once the hacker gets in. They don't immediately act on it. They wait for weeks, do the recon, and then expand horizontally, and then they attack, right? So that's because the way technology today, it accepts the first packet, TCP/IP packet, and then finds out whether it's an authentic connection. But by the time the hacker is already in your network, he may not have done a damage yet. So that's the technology zero trust model that we are working with to even prevent that recon from happening, right?
And
So industry is exploring. Sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
Oh, no, I was going to add, and continuous authentication, not just authenticating at the point of logging in, but authenticating when you go in to make a transfer, a wire, an ACH, because at any point during that time in the online banking, it could go from a legitimate customer to a bad actor. And so a continuous authentication is necessary.
Exactly, right? Because sometimes they even hijack the cookie after authentication and then assume the identity of the authenticated user to make the transaction, right? And I agree with, Baron, what he mentioned. A lot of times, even if you have the technology controls in place, zero trust solution or any of the other, myriad solutions that we have in the market. But, if you see the recent attacks, they're all based on social engineering, right? They are tricking the consumer to, give away something, and they use that credential to log in as though it is that person, right? So that, I don't know if, there'll be a way to mitigate that, unless otherwise, the device is also compromised, where I take somebody's device, I know their credential, then I log in from their device, right? So I guess, there's a lot of work on the cybersecurity front to look forward to.
And that's where behavioral biometrics can come into play, because I could steal your device and I could log in from your location, but I'm not going to behave like you. I'm going to pause when I'm putting in my username and password because I don't have it memorized. I think you only mess up typing your name 1% of the time. Everybody knows their social security number when they're applying for, a new account. A fraudster, if they're copying and pasting or taking those breaks, is this a normal mouse pattern for you? Is this normal keyboard stroking for you? And so that's where I think that's really going to come into play.
Okay. One more question on technology. I meant to ask this earlier. Because now probably 60 to 70% of the workforce, they're working remotely, right? So working from home or wherever they are. And I would say most of the action these days are done by Alexa or Google Assistant or Siri anyways, right? So we don't even want to, type anything, we just ask the assistant. There was, voice banking, that was, popular a couple of years ago. So do you think that that technology where people don't even need to log into a website, if they are at home, they just wanted to do, basic things like, the balance or transfer, money, or, do a payment. So do you think there's still interest in doing voice banking through, your Alexa or Google Assistant or Siri? Brian, is
Yeah,
there anything on voice banking?
I think that it will be similar to the transition from paper to digital, or when you went to mobile apps, and if you just take and copy everything that you did in the physical world to the digital, it's not going to be as impactful an experience. I think it will be a similar thing when we jump to voice, of how do you think about a voice native solution rather than just saying, oh, this is what you can do on my website, therefore I'll translate that to voice. I think we will want to think from first principles of what is it that I would want to do through this type of medium versus another one that may be more convenient.
Yeah. Plus, I guess even if you're using voice banking, the assumption is, you're probably alone, and, nobody hears the response, because if it's, giving out your balance or, any of the information, you don't want anybody else in the room as well, right? It's
Right.
more
And it may be
personal.
that you need to be more intelligent, right? Can I figure out if you have Bluetooth headphones on? And then there may be a different interaction. So that's why I think we'll need to rethink it entirely rather than just port it over.
Yeah, yeah. I know, we talked about, physical to virtual, probably declining physical branches, more online. I guess the next step is, probably one day I think AI will automatically pick all of us as panelists and probably start a event in, metaverse, right? So do you think that, banks will embrace doing virtual banking in metaverse? I know JP Morgan, HSBC, some of the banks already are doing, something in metaverse, at least to maintain the social connection, or, create that wow factor for the, younger customers. So, what are your views on banking in metaverse, Brian?
So I think there's two aspects of banking in the metaverse. So one is banking the metaverse directly, right? As you look at virtual properties and all the kinds of virtual goods that might be sold or transacted in the metaverse. And then the other is doing real world banking, but in the metaverse. I think both of those are likely to occur in some stage, but similar. I think the bad experiences will be, you know, do I go to a branch in the metaverse and have to wait in line at a branch? Like, hopefully not, right? Let's rethink what metaverse banking looks like, from what are the capabilities available and what problems can we solve there uniquely that we can't do better through other channels.
Baron, what do you think about metaverse banking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much aligned with what Brian just said. I think that, there's, you know, banking is going to happen in the metaverse because people are there or will be there, are there, and money is there and transactions are there. So wherever those two things are, you're going to have banking. The risk is that, to Brian's point, we're just going to create a bunch of virtual branches, right? And people are going to kick out of standing in a virtual queue, and that will be, and it's not going to surprise me if that happens, but that will be a terrible mistake. But I think it's going to be an evolution, right? So I think there's going to be, some really smart, innovative players in that space that, and I actually think what will happen is they will come back with a really transformative way of banking, that and money management and sort of wealth and financial sort of management, that actually will go from the metaverse to the physical world. And that's what I'm looking for, because the metaverse is sort of this unconstrained canvas. And so once you really come back with some really interesting thinking, the next step is going to be, how do I bring that back into the physical world, and what does that look like? And I think that that's inevitable as well. And I'm really looking forward to where that's going to ultimately go.
Okay. And I guess, already Catherine has her hands full knowing whether the person is real or not. Now she has to build an army to find out
That's
whether
all.
the
That's
avatar
my
is
first
real or
thought
not.
is are you, because I don't know enough about the metaverse. I'm an old lady, but when you think about video gaming, I mean, you're creating a character, you're creating a profile. So how does that work when it comes to banking? How do I authenticate you and know who the underlying person is that's trying to access the account? So that's where my brain immediately goes.
Yeah, yeah. I
Sure, if
think,
they're really
there'll
virtual.
also be exactly identity management, right? And also the compliance and regulatory rules, how it applies to the virtual world. I guess to Baron's point, right? A lot of people will spend time, or maybe that is the future for probably retail space, right? So they may go look at things that they want to buy, virtually try it on, and then they want to pay. I think a lot of payment solutions probably has future from a metaverse standpoint. Not bank per se. There's no point in having a virtual ATM machine and you can't withdraw virtual money. You can still do it today, right? You don't need to go to the metaverse to do that. But I guess from a payment standpoint, I'm assuming there'll be a lot of opportunities when the retail and other industries, embrace metaverse more and more. One last question that I had, then probably we can open it up for questions. Now, with all of the emerging technologies, low code, no code, automated workflow, automation, AI, ML, all of that we talked about. What is your advice for the next gen talent, right? So, what should they be doing from a technology standpoint? Because in my days, started with assembler, COBOL, .NET. So technology, improved, but there's something to learn. But now, if AI, ML, and everything is going to be automatically done, what is your guidance for the next generation for technology talent? Brian, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think one is that whatever technology you learn now, you're going to have to learn a different one in 3, 4 years anyway. And so it's more about how do you establish the ability to continuously learn is the most important thing that you can be learning, and how to think through a problem, how to break it down, how to understand and learn new concepts. I think that's critical. That's even, certainly in my career, I've moved through a lot of different industries, and my education was in physics doing lasers. So it had really little bearing on any of the industries I've worked in, but it did teach me how to learn, and that's been an invaluable skill.
You can apply that in computer vision technology using lasers.
Yeah,
It, it,
right,
it's
exactly.
almost like you have to continue to get new iPhone every year, right? So similar to that, you have to continue to learn new technology or a newer version of the same technology every year.
Wow, Apple will be really happy about that comment.
So Baron, what would be your advice?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with everything Brian said. What I would sort of build upon that is, I think there's two things that when it comes to, let's say, technology and technologists, that's going to be crucial, right? Beyond just the continuous learning, is you've got to embrace a creative mindset, right? The way you're going to differentiate in a world of no code, low code, AI and automation and everything's there for you to build, is how creative can you be in thinking about solving business problems, solving user problems, solving technology problems, right? Creating new opportunities. And then the second part of that is, I think that what we're going to be heading towards is the era of the architect, right? Just because you've got a low code, no code platform, you can still build it badly. You can still implement it terribly and efficiently. So this concept of architecture, right, which is really about design thinking as well, is really going to be crucial. So my perspective is the two things that are going to really help you stand out as an individual in this sort of future world is, embrace creativity and sort of, embrace design thinking and become an architect. And I think those two things will really help you sort of personally win in the space you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good. Sorry, Catherine, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah. I was going to say RPA doesn't happen on its own. I mean, you're never going to replace people because somebody has to build those automations, and so being well versed in developing and coding, I mean, that's where the future is. But to Baron's point, I mean, just being creative, thinking outside of the box, and how can we do this better and more efficiently?
Yeah, yeah. Even if technology stays the same, there'll be new compliance rules every year, so you still have to
Oh, I'm
change.
sure.
Yeah. So it's a good discussion. I know we covered a lot of areas, spanning technology, strategy. How do you even start with transformation, and thanks to Brian, right? So instead of calling digital transformation, you're right. Everything has to have a business outcome. So it's end of the day business transformation. We talked about compliance, new banks, metaverse, the future of banking. We talked about digital currencies, and also the guidance for the next generation of technology talent, right, as to what they can look forward to. So amazing discussion. I enjoyed it very much. So Nitin, I don't know if we have any questions from the audience.
We have few questions, Nataraj. So I know we are up on time, so you can just quickly. Should I read out the questions in
So I
case?
think I'm able to see a couple of them. So one of the question is, how does security impact the technology implementation in digital banking? I guess we talked about the cyber security aspects already. I think we covered that. Next one is, how do banks FI prioritize digital roadmap for the future? I guess we also covered that in part. I think Brian and Baron explained about design thinking. It's not like all technology that you hear about you want to implement. You want to see what is the value that your end customer or your segment of consumers will see. And then Baron talked about 360-degree even feedback, right? Before you roll out or even after you roll out, to see whether that's really making sense or if you have to make any tweaks, right? So I guess we covered that question. Next one, how are banks tackling digital technologies and how are they accelerating adoption of technologies? I guess that's also covered in one of the questions earlier. So those are some of them I'm able to see. Nitin, I don't know if there were any
The
other
last
questions.
question is, due to the pandemic, contactless transactions are in place. So here is how you overcome the banking unplanned downtime. That is the last
So
question.
say the question again.
Due to the pandemic, contactless transactions are in place. So here is how you overcome the banking unplanned downtime.
So they're talking about contactless payments, right? Because of
Contactless payments because of the
okay.
pandemic.
What's the question about downtime? Sorry, that wasn't clear.
So here is how you overcome the banking unplanned downtime. Downtime. That is a
I'm not sure what they're asking, but if I were to uh, assume, are they asking that there should technically be no downtime because people can pay anytime? Um I don't know if that is the question, right? Then it comes to
yeah,
system
yeah.
availability and resiliency.
Yes, yes, absolutely, Nataraj. I think that is the question.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, payments, you have now dime a dozen, providers, right? And not just the banks. Like, we talked about Venmo, we talked about Cash App, we talked about Zelle. The peer-to-peer, payments industry, has boomed a lot, especially after COVID, right? You don't even have to write a check, or you don't have to go through a bank to, send money through ACH or wire, incurring fees or even time delay. So today, if I know, your phone number or email address, I can transfer money, and almost instantly, at least you get the notification that, you have received the money, right? So pretty much that is available, 24/7. I've never seen an instance where, payments are not available between so and so time from an availability standpoint. I guess, that's a table stakes these days.
Yeah. Sure. I think that sums up. I think we had an interesting discussion. I think amazing discussion. Time went just flied, and there are a lot of questions which were answered by Catherine, Brian, and Baron. Thanks a lot for guys for bringing this all together. And shaping up this amazing topic, the role of technology in digital banking. Thanks to Natarajan, for moderating this session in the best possible way. I'm sure I enjoyed a lot. I'm sure the crowd also enjoyed this, all the participants who came together for this. So I'll just wrap it up for this particular event, so that everyone who joined late also they are in tune with what we are. So we would like to thank InfoVision, which is our knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, which is our technology partner. Digit7 also have a great innovation lab, of 15,000 square feet in Richardson, Texas. Any one of you who are dropping by can always go to their office, have a look to feel that. They have a lot of innovative products. To understand more in depth, connect with them, and to suggest any aspect, all of you can go through their website which is infovision.com and digit7.io, and closely liaison with them. Also, we would like to thank our community partners, speakers, and attendees who came together for enriching knowledge through this forum. We had a great set of panel speakers who came together to share thoughts. Just for your information, today's event was broadcasted in the YouTube and Facebook page of our company, so all of you can go and see the recording anytime. Please log on to our website and like the social media channels. We'll be sharing lots of knowledge sharing topics, details, announcement of next events, and much more, which will help you register and attend the same. Thanks, and do take care of yourself. Have a lovely day and week ahead. Bye. Bye, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Nitin. Thanks,
Thank you.
Baron, Brian,
Thank you.
Catherine.
It's great to meet you all. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank
Enjoy the
you.
rest of
Take
your day.
care.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
lovely day. Bye. Take care.
Bye.